Hi there Waltoniers, I'm Jack and this is of course DSNY Newscast, and before we get started I just want to say that if you'd like to receive a notification whenever I release a new video, then be sure to go down to the bell icon, hit subscribe and also turn notifications to all notifications. As you see, YouTube have made some changes to the algorithm, which means that they'll personalise the notifications instead of sending you a notification whenever there's a new video. So the way to bypass that is just to select all notifications. But anyways, with that out of the way, now let's get straight into it. As despite Tokyo Disney Resort remaining closed since February 29th with no proposed reopening date at the time of this recording, the construction work has continued with a somewhat reduced capacity on the $2.3 billion 34-acre expansion to Tokyo DisneySea called Fantasy Springs. And within this brand new port, there will be 3 mini lands consisting of a Tangled section, a Frozen section, and a Peter Pan themed section. Now in previous videos, I've detailed the layout of Fantasy Springs through the help of this model that was revealed within the Imagineering story. And we've also discussed what we know so far about the Tangled and Frozen sections, which I'll leave links to those videos down below. But now I think it's about time that we talk about the Peter Pan themed area, which will probably be predictably known as Neverland, to go along with the Kingdom of Arendelle and the Kingdom of Corona from Tangled. However, to begin with, here is an aerial view of the construction as of April 2020, which shows the distinct layout of the land beginning to take shape, with foundations and steelwork for the Tangled, Frozen and Peter Pan attraction show buildings. But as we can see here in this video by TDR Explorer, that because the resort monorail loops around the perimeter of the expansion site, it means that we can get a much better look at the construction, and more specifically the Peter Pan area, as that section is closest to the monorail track. But to better understand what we're exactly looking at, here's a permit that gives an overview, and when translated it informs us that the steel framework off to the side at the back of the Indiana Jones ride is actually going to be a backstage services building, and then the construction to the side of that is actually for a services bridge that will allow continued backstage operational access to the back of Tokyo Disneyland. And so it's because of this need for this service road that the entrance into Fantasy Springs will be a themed tunnel transition, with elaborate rock work and waterfall features depicted here in this concept art. However, we also have these construction photos that I'll leave a link to down below, that show a much clearer view of the progress on the Peter Pan attraction show building that has seemingly topped out. But it still has some further framework to be installed on the side before the enclosure of the building can begin. But then this brings us to what this attraction is going to be. As in 2018, the official summary stated that guests will fly over the jungles of Neverland with Peter Pan to rescue Wendy's younger brother John in a battle with Captain Hook. Although since then we've also learnt that guests will be boarding boats and follow the Lost Boys down a river when Tinkerbell sprinkles the boats with pixie dust, and guests will find themselves flying through Neverland on an unprecedented adventure that features iconic music and dynamic 3D imagery. Which, if you take all of that and consider the height of the show building along with the description of the 3D imagery, then it certainly aligns with the rumours that we'd heard that this attraction would be some form of simulator experience. Which, before the additional information about being seated in boats was revealed, I speculated way back in 2018 when it was first announced that this attraction could be using a modified flight of passage system, where instead of riding on the back of a Banshee, Imagineering can modify this system so therefore you could be laying flat on your stomach, flying with your arms outstretched like Peter Pan. However, that was just my own armchair Imagineering of what I thought the attraction could be. But that's where the plot thickens. As since last September, I've been keeping a clip that was showcased in an Imagineering sizzle reel, which was later shown once again within the Imagineering story, and it showcases an intriguing ride system, which I couldn't find a match for at the time based upon the existing Imagineering projects that we knew about. But now with the information about guests being seated in boats that take off into the air along with the use of 3D imagery, I reckon that what we're looking at here might just be an early test with rudimentary components for this Peter Pan attraction. as it fulfills so much of the suitable criteria that was described. But in addition to that, it also has the extra movement that might allow the rows of boats to swing up into the 3D projection dome, similar to that of Flight of Passage or Soarin', and perhaps this system will transition from one projection dome to another with a few physical set pieces in between. But either way, obviously this is not confirmed as of yet, but I still think it's an interesting possibility that this test footage might be an early iteration of the system that could be used within a Peter Pan simulator ride. However, that's not all, as we also have some construction photos that show us our first glimpse at the theming for the area, as there are these prefabricated themed elements that show a mix of Frozen and Peter Pan rockwork, along with a piece that seems to be from the exterior of the Snuggly Duckling Tavern as well. Now, the purpose of these kinds of pieces are usually for architectural theming and test samples, to see how well these certain elements weather over time, as was the case with these sample boards for the Ratatouille expansion that was spotted last year by BioReconstruct. But considering that the estimated opening time frame for Fantasy Springs has been pushed back into late 2023, I would expect that the final elements won't be ready for installation as of yet, but instead they'll be coming much later. Although there is one last thing I want to mention about this Peter Pan section, and that is the second ride, which will be a basic flat ride themed to Tinkerbell and Pixie Hollow. And as I was doing a bit of research for this video, I stumbled across this piece of concept art that was designed by Imagineer Scott Drake for the original plans of New Fantasyland in Tokyo Disneyland. And if you look at the overall track layout and compare that to the Tinkerbell ride within the overview permit, I think we can expect something inspired by this type of theming to be brought to Fantasy Springs as well, except that we don't know whether this basic flat ride will be a bus bar, boat ride or trackless ride system. However, rest assured I'll be back to cover it all when we find out even more about the Frozen, Tangled and Peter Pan rides coming to Tokyo DisneySea in the future. And then lastly for today, let's very quickly move on over to Hong Kong Disneyland, as we now have the news that the park is set to reopen on June 18th, after it began its temporary closure due to the pandemic on January 26, 2020, meaning that when the park reopens, it will have remained shut for 144 days, which, depending on when we finally get the reopening dates for Tokyo Disneyland, it might be that Hong Kong Disneyland's closure is the longest closure period for any of the Disney parks. And in addition to this, when the park does reopen this Thursday, there will be a reservation system in place, control capacity, and enhanced hygiene procedures. But now, it's over to you, the Waltoneers, as first of all, I'd like to know what's your opinion of that test footage of that ride system featured within the Imagineering story, and also if you could get Disney to make any attraction based on one of their classic movies, then what attraction would it be, and also how would it work? And of course, don't forget to put the timestamp for where the hidden Mickey appeared somewhere in today's video, along with your suggestion or your comment, to be in the chance to win one of these official DSNY Newscast enamel pins. And congratulations to this Waltoneer here for winning this suggestion from a previous video where we're talking all about the state of construction on the Avengers campus. And so that's it for today, so be sure to go ahead and subscribe down below if you're new to this channel, hit that notification icon and select all notifications, and also if you've enjoyed today's video then be sure to give this video a massive thumbs up, as it really does help this channel out. And I've been Jack, you've been you, and I'll see you real soon.